What's going on, everybody? HiRezJuju here, better known as Matt. I'm here with Garrett, better known as HiRezMartini. And I know we said we were going to do one of these per month, but you've been bamboozled again.
We wanted more, guys. We wanted to give you more.
That's right.
Yeah, and we got a lot of cool things to talk about today. Some small to not so small changes coming into the realm, things we want to test. But we're going to have a bit of an order. First, we're going to tell you what we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to tell you what we talked about.
Truth.
So what are we looking at today, Matt?
Well, I mean, one thing for sure, we got a lot of experimental stuff, and I think given the nature of what you're about to see tomorrow on the Patch Notes show, I think it's rather fitting. So yeah,
teasers, man, teasers.
Yep. We got three things. Okay. First thing that we're going to talk about is we got a special camera change that we're going to be doing, third person. We'll talk more about that.
Yep.
The second thing is we've got some potential changes coming through for Wrecker. Are we still going to call it that?
Yeah. It's gonna retain its name. For the test at least. And then we'll take it from there.
And last but not least, we're going to be talking about diminishing returns.
That's correct.
Yep.
All three of these things are semi to pretty impactful. So I think we'll just get into it. No more waiting. So the first thing on the docket was what Matt mentioned about the third person. So as you guys know, if you've been following Paladins, for a couple of patch cycles, we had the kind of third person perspective in the match lobby, or excuse me, not match lobby, but the pre-match state. Yeah. We had previously had a lot of feedback about people really wanting to see what their characters look like in 3P. We have a lot of beautiful animations, visual effects, that it felt like you were getting half the picture of just with first person only. But
alternatively, we had some people who said, hey, I like to shoot around in the beginning here and I like to warm up.
We heard you. So what we are going to be implementing in this upcoming patch is actually a third-person toggle key. So we've gone through and kind of adjusted the camera specifically for every character, kind of had a designer's eye on it, incorporated special treatments for aim-down sights or even kind of scoping some characters.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Are you talking about the spawn room?
No, I'm talking about, this is a hotkey that you can press anytime that will kick you from first person to third person. We're going to test this out in this upcoming patch. We'll also be doing a round of surveys to gather your guys' feedback on it, with a couple kind of just notes. First one being is that this is going to be not available in competitive queues. So our competitive queues are still going to be first person, just to kind of promote some of the sanctity of the competitiveness. If you really want to get that third person camera advantage, you got to suffer that 2-second emote lockout before you peek around the corner looking at you pros, finger waggle. But it's pretty, in some cases, it's actually pretty cool. Some of our characters look amazing in third person. And
the gameplay is I think, better for some of them. Personally,
some of them,
like for instance, for Pip, because a lot of people are used to jumping around as Pip in 3P anyway when you use his abilities, I think it kind of transfers over a bit more naturally to him. I really enjoyed Pip in 3P. I think whereas some of the snipers, some of the more pinpoint accurate people, those are ones maybe you want to keep first person.
But now you have the option, guys, so you can toggle it on, toggle it off. I think we're going with C as the key. So
can they rebind that?
Yeah, of course. Also, on your custom games, you're going to have an option of allowing it or disallowing it, just to, again, give you the options to create the games that you feel are within the guidelines that you want to play. But yeah, so let us know what you guys think. It's a whole new experience in the game for sure, but it's entirely opt-in, and will only be available in the casual queues.
Yeah, and again, that's one that the team has gone through and really tried to polish it up and make sure that it looks right, it plays right, it feels right.
Yeah, and we can always get better. So
absolutely.
Let us know your feedback. The next thing we want to talk about.
Yes, this is one that's real interesting, I think. I remember we had a lot of discussions about this.
So I mentioned Wrecker previously, and I want to preface this by saying all of these changes I'm about to talk about, we are going to have in only PTS. So this isn't something we are going to ship in the next patch. We are going to test it, gather some stats, gather some feedback, and then make changes accordingly.
And to that note, all you guys, please, please, please get in PTS, give it a shot, really, really try it out. This is one we definitely need a lot of feedback on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, without further ado, the record change that we're going to be testing in PTS for OB61 is as follows. Now, Wrecker will no longer modify the damage to shields of your in-hand damage. It will modify the damage your in-hand does to frontline class specifically. Now, it's a very large change, and this has a couple of implications and also some overarching themes that I'd like to communicate. We have been seeing, actually,
I think everyone's been seeing.
yeah. And that's in the now, but statistically, always in a game like Paladins, specifically Paladins, frontlines have been our winningest characters across the board. Granted, we're an objective-based game, and frontlines are designed to take and hold objectives, so you would assume that's the natural thing. It's just the magnitude at which they do so. We feel it has some potential detrimental effects on long-lasting gameplay, and we believe there's a path to allow frontlines to be powerful in their own right, while still defending against kind of the abuse of the role.
Sure, because I mean, the stronger they get, other roles kind of get pushed out of their roles. I mean, for a while we saw the everyone flanking with front lines.
That's a fair way of looking at it for sure. And kind of the paradigm, or the two big kind of opportunity cost options we could have gone with here. So we are testing and implementing this systematic check and balance that basically says there are rules that kind of incentivize not stacking multiples of the frontline role, instead of going through and then individually paring down and nerfing each frontline exclusively.
Which is really more fun of an experience if we can get to that goal without having to change the experience of that class significantly.
Correct. We like that frontlines are powerful. We like that we are a shooter, but at the same time we have these fantasy kind of RPG role elements, like, you know, roguish, flanky characters, or kind of marksman damage characters, and then these like tanky frontline characters, and the healy support characters. We love buying into those roles. Yeah, I was looking for the descriptor at the end. It came through. But we like buying into these roles, and we think we've done a really good job of creating a system that supports them all. And this change with frontlines is really a mechanism of the fact that currently the current checks and balance system with Wrecker assumes that the measure of those tanks' efficacy is their shields, when in fact, and I think I hope you all agree, is that really the measure of their efficacy is A, their damage, and B, their health pools, and how these things combine to just increase damage over time and just give them incredible staying power in combination with those same shields. So what we'll be doing with this change to Wrecker, where instead of going 75, et cetera, damage to shields, now it's going to do 10, 20, 30% damage to the frontline rolls. If you own this card with your in-hand only. And we have then also, because this is a two-part thing, gone through and reduced all of the shield values to a kind of preemptive before Wrecker state. So now that you no longer need to buy a card to counter these shields, their health pools had to come down a little bit just because they were built with Wrecker in mind.
And what's going to make this interesting, in my opinion, is that everyone knows that by the time Shaolin's got Wrecker 3, that shield of yours is a joke. You know, you're trying to approach the point,
which feels bad, right?
It does.
Because then your defensive mechanism that you have to expend a cooldown for then doesn't protect you, and you're like, great.
Yeah.
Great. Versus, so now there's the relationship of, yes, if a character has Wrecker, he will be doing more damage to me. However, my defensive mechanism is still extremely powerful, and it allows for a little bit more of using your tankiness, using your defensive cooldowns as kind of a defense thing instead of a, hey, I'm going to try and go into the enemy's back line and just bully the hell out of people for the duration, pop a shield or hide behind a shield, regen, etc. Now it's like, okay, my one-on-one capacity with the damage character is going to be a little bit, or even a flank, or even a support, technically, if you have 30% more damage towards front lines, is going to be it's a bit different.
What's cool is it incentivizes smart management of your cooldowns and of your shield, so that players who previously might have just, I'm going to sit here with my shield up all day, every day until they get Wrecker 3 and then whatever. Now they can, you know, it'll separate, so to speak, the men from the boys. It'll separate, you know, the experienced frontliners from the people who, you know, maybe just relied on that shield spam until Wrecker came online.
It's a very astute observation, and also there are lots of benefits to this. Another one being that this system is designed to prevent abuse of role stacking, much as we don't really see a problem with like 4 supports or 3 supports on a team, right? The goal here is to not make it so that you only ever pick one front line. It's just that now, because front lines can be tuned so that they are just powerful innately, that it is an interesting tactical decision whether or not I want to go 1 or 2. With this system, you probably likely wouldn't want to go 3, just because there's an accessible item that will increase your entire enemy team's damage by 30% to 3 of your characters on your team.
Let me ask you this. We're talking about this change, and I don't have Twitch chat in front of me, but I bet you any amount of money someone's saying, this is aggression. Bring back aggression now. What do you have to say about that?
So this isn't a flat damage boost, obviously. This is specifically targeted at countering front lines. If you think it's aggression, I would encourage you to kind of understand that it's kind of a yin and yang to a class balance in a shooter. So instead of taking the thing that just makes me better against everyone, this is in fact taking a thing that makes you better against a single role.
And it's a different value proposition.
Absolutely, and it's also opportunity cost, because you are no longer now limiting heals, you are no longer reloading faster, you are no longer destroying deployables. You are saying, I'm going to be more effective if I am shooting a front line who is undefended. Which again, this kind of check and balance is really to promote kind of variety in frontline picks, while at the same time preventing abuse of frontline picks, basically.
And just to recap for anyone who came in late, what we're talking about is only going to be on PTS. This is something we're just throwing out to you guys to get your opinion on.
Yep. And also to recap, the specific change is that Wrecker is no longer going to increase damage to shields. It is going to increase damage to frontline players by 10, 20, 30%.
What kind of credits are we looking at?
The credit price is currently unchanged. But again, this is something that we'll kind of take into consideration with feedback from y'all. So please, please, please get on PTS, test it, let us know what you think. It should create some interesting combinations, open up some item choices for you guys, and then hopefully make both sides of the front line or other role better to play.
Sure. Cool, man. I'm excited to get out there and try it myself. I haven't had a chance to try this myself internally, so I'll see you out in the PTS. So the next thing, diminishing returns.
That's correct.
We're about to get Matthew with you, and I'm going to let him handle this because.
Well, I'll keep it simple. I'll keep it simple. Part of doing what we do is being able to communicate things clearly, and diminishing returns is a little bit technical. So the basic premise of diminishing returns is if I have an attribute, say movement speed for this example, when I get multiple applications of it, so if I have a legendary that gives me some amount of movement speed, and then I have loadout cards that give me some amount of movement speed, and then say I have an ally that has an ability that gives me some amount of movement speed. How do all of these different amounts of movement speed add up on my person?
Well, we don't want Sonic the Hedgehog, you know?
I mean, I like Sonic the Hedgehog, but not, yes. In currently, the current effect of it is that there's a system called Strongest Wins. This is not documented anywhere and is really just kind of a little bit more of the nitty-gritty details that are documented in dev talks such as this or on forum posts, those kinds of things. But the way it works is that if I have a
currently.
If there is, yes, currently, if there are multiple values that are being applied of a certain attribute, I benefit from the highest one.
Okay.
Pretty much straight up. Now what's going to happen is that we have reworked the system for diminishing returns. So this applies to healing amplification, healing reduction, movement speed, damage amplification, damage reduction, anything that changes numbers on your person, really.
Sure.
In the following way. So you are going to benefit from your highest value, and then everything else you get, every other discrete attribute is going to stack on top of that highest value and diminish accordingly.
All right.
So an actual example would be if I have movement speed, or we'll say...
Now, movement speed and other stats, there's a different formula for each. I was reading that.
There are multiple formulas for different buckets,
which we're going to publish for you guys.
Yeah,
we're going to give you
on the patch notes
nitty
tomorrow.
gritty. You can check it out.
Yep. But for the sake of this kind of example, it'll just be, say, I benefit from a legendary that gives me 50% base movement speed, hypothetically, and then an ally buffs me for 20% movement speed.
Okay.
What's gonna in old Paladins, what would happen is I would just get 50%, and I wouldn't see any change from that 20. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to benefit from the highest one, get the full value on my highest, so get that 50%, and then the 20% is going to be given to me. So I'm going to see a difference. I'm going to feel a difference.
Sure.
But it's going to be at a slightly diminished state. This prevents abuse and crazy stacking and crazy amplification. But it'd probably come out probably around, instead of, if it was just additive, it'd be 70%.
Okay.
And likely if it's going to diminish, it's probably going to be around probably 63 to 67, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And then if I received another movement speed buff, I would still stack, but at a kind of just higher diminished rate. So basically what this holistically is saying is that you will always benefit now from cards that amplify your attributes.
Now, there's a hard cap too, right? I remember reading. Let me get the data up in front of me, because I think we did have a hard cap that we introduced for at least movement speed, as far as I know. All right, yes. Movement speed now has a maximum increase of 150%, and then all other attributes will have a maximum increase of 95%.
Right. So those are the ceilings of how high can I go if I stack all of these benefits. Likely you won't see many scenarios where you're going to be hitting those ceilings, but they do exist.
What about Tyra, for instance, with her Lifesteal Legendary and her, she builds Life Rip on top of that, and then...
Sure. So Life Rip, for example, is 30%, right? And then with the Legendary is another 30.
Sure.
First Blood. What's going to happen is you are going to get 30%, and then the next 30% would
be subject
to diminishing returns at a slightly reduced rate.
Okay.
And the higher you go, the more amounts of the same attributes you stack, the larger amount of diminishment you incur. Hopefully that's clear. I apologize if it's not.
And again, we're going to be putting this well documented for you guys, so you can see what it affects. You can see, the formulas for either one. So those of you more math oriented, like to do some theory craft, and can really get in there and figure out optimal builds and loadouts and situations.
Do you have chat on your phone?
I don't. I'd have to bring it up here. I can do that for you.
You can bring it up.
Yeah,
I'm sure people have a couple of questions that we might want to answer, because I think we powered through those things fairly quickly.
We got a couple minutes, and if I can get this up quick enough, we can definitely take a couple questions there.
Yeah, I would love to do that. But just to recap, guys, while he's bringing that up, so we talked about the upcoming 3P toggle that will be entering the realm in all of our casual modes, and kind of the fact that we're looking for your feedback on it. We're also talking about the, oh man, I can hear my voice. That's wild. Yep. We're also talking about the change to Wrecker, and then also the change to diminishing returns. Maybe we got some questions in chat now.
All right. Let's see here. Well, we got the sexy Juju announcer pack. When? That's Sarah's video, man. All right. So.
Oh, that was on this table, wasn't it?
Yes, it was this very table I was sprawled out across, vamping my best. So yeah, we got a question here from someone. When are you buffing Pip? But no, as far as things that we could probably answer here that are related, let's see. Kinessa can already achieve 160% movement speed. Why is it capped to 150? Can she get 160? I don't know about that.
I believe he's the card in question is the Bob and Weave card.
Okay.
We may have to adjust certain cards given this new system.
Okay.
So examples like that are great. Thank you for pointing that out. But in the new system, you would absolutely get the full value of that card for the duration after your teleporter.
All right. So someone's saying, so you can stack nimbles now. So I think what they're asking is when you get nimble 1, it's 10%, nimble 2, 20%. So as that moves up, is it, how does that work out?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe the player's a little confused. You actually don't buy multiple renditions of nimble. You actually just upgrade one. So you're not buying multiple nimbles. But you can stack things on top of nimble if that's what you're asking. So currently, if I got max rank nimble, 30% movement speed, right, and then I have something else that buffs me by 10% movement speed, I will then increase to probably, like 37, 38. 39% movement speed instead of only benefiting from nimble in old Paladins. Now you get them both.
Cool. Someone was asking about the 3P toggle, if it's something they have to select ahead of time or if it's something you can do on the fly. And that's one we can do on the fly.
It's one you can do on the fly, guys. Yeah, it's just bound to C currently in casual queues, and it pops in, pops out. Like Matt was saying, some characters it feels decent to shoot on and play on, and I would tend to agree that a lot of the kind of shooter FPS type characters personally feel better in first person, but if you like third person shooters, definitely give it a try.
Absolutely. So we're trying to keep the questions towards what we're talking about now, but just for a lot of people talking about
like other things, patch things. Who's the new champion?
Yeah.
Thomas Holt spoiling everything. I need to know something.
There's one in particular which is about servers, and just for you guys asking about server performance in different regions, that's something we're most certainly looking into. And follow up with me on Twitter. I need data about that, and just hit me up with information about match IDs, all that stuff. So for questions that we have here, let's see here. So people ask about cauterize, if that's next on the chopping block.
So cauterize is actually going to be affected by the diminishing returns update to the system, because this is an attribute, just as healing amplification will be touched by diminishing returns. Healing reduction will also be touched by diminishing returns. So once this goes through and we kind of see how it plays, we are the game that we are. So I will never say that we are never going to touch anything. Yeah. Just because it's always about getting better. It's always about finding improvements and kind of making the game the best that it can be. But currently we're definitely focusing on kind of the wrecker and frontline distribution in our player base in games.
So here's one for the changes that we're doing for Wrecker that will only be in PTS for testing. Someone's asking, will the shield hit points see a drastic reduction? And some of the legendaries like Aegis, are those gonna are we gonna see heavy reductions, heavy changes, or is it case by case?
All the shield values in PTS for your frontline characters have been reduced accordingly. So now that they don't have to fight against 300% damage or 275% damage amplification from Wrecker, they don't need as much health. That being said, they're still extremely powerful, so I wouldn't worry too much. And now you can rely on them more because there is no variance in, okay, at the start of the game I put my shield up and it died this fast, versus at the end of the game I put my shield up and it died instantly. You won't have that. You'll be able to count on them.
And it will not be affecting shields, this bonus damage. It's only when it comes through.
To the front lines person.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's only in-hand damage.
Awesome. Let's see. We've got... if you take Nimble 3, how will that work when you use Prowl afterwards to speed yourself, even for a limited time?
So you will receive the highest bonus that those two give you, which I believe is Prowl, 65, 70, it's around there. You will receive the highest bonus, and then Nimble would diminish on top of it.
So even though the highest bonus is a temporary bonus, that would then take precedence over the more permanent lower bonus.
Absolutely, yes. All
right. So it's highest, not what comes first, stuff like that. Let's see here. For those of you asking about matchmaking, I did do a write-up about that. It's if you just search Paladins matchmaking FAQ, a lot of answers there. I'd be happy to answer more on Twitter and whatnot, look into individual cases. Again, let me know. Get at me, at SuperBadJuju. What else we got here? Let's see, trying to find stuff that's related to what we're talking about mostly. By in-hand damage, do you mean abilities that count as a normal attack, like Leon?
Yeah, yes.
So basically, if it was affected by Wrecker before, it'll still be affected by Wrecker currently?
Yep.
Okay. if you have Cauterize 3 and your champion got some card that reduces healing by 10 to 30%, will it stack still?
Yes. Yeah. That's the nice thing now. Again, it's no longer strongest wins, so healing reduction on abilities will stack with healing reduction from your items such as Cauterize.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yeah, and the goal, guys, of this was to make it so that you always get a benefit from a card. There isn't a scenario where you pick a card and it does nothing. So, and I think it's going to be just better all around. It feels good.
So what about crowd control and diminishing returns? What's the relationship there?
So this diminishing returns is actually a separate system from crowd control.
Okay.
We actually removed, I believe, the diminishing returns from CC in a previous patch. So that's not something that this applies to. This is for generally kind of attributes and modifiers on my person that I am kind of sending out to other characters or receiving, but not CC related.
All right. Someone's asking, what about bonus damage? So Ying's focusing lens.
Bonus damage isn't an amplification metric, so that's just you deal an additional X amount of damage,
okay.
Right? One that it would apply to, a legendary that would apply to, is say Tyra's hunting party, right? Mm-hmm. It increases the damage amplification, percent-based amplification on a target. So if there was multiple sources of amplification on a single target, then the highest one would be received at full value, and then all the other ones would diminish on top of it.
Okay. I see some people asking about scenarios where, like, you take, a high percentage Cauterize, and then you combine that with someone's loadout and stuff. Mm-hmm. You can't go above 100% on these because they're soft capped, or hard capped rather, at 95%. It's only movement speed you can go over 100% on.
Correct, unless there's a specific ability that says you can't heal at all, aka dead zone or something like that.
Sure. That's funny. Someone just asked if Willow was affected by that.
Boom, got him.
There you go. Let's see, what else do we got here? Will this go live Wednesday?
The diminishing returns change? We've talked about 3 things. As far as saying when the patch is, we always shoot for getting you guys the patch as soon as we can. And we have a lot of people working hard on our kind of platform and distributions team, so I don't want to speak for them, but it's always the goal to get you the patch on a consistent date.
Okay, and for the record change, that's PTS, so that'll likely be,
yes,
provided nothing goes wrong, Friday after the show, later in that night,
and over the weekend. So please play, guys. Give us your feedback. Post on the forums. Tweet at us, etc. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you think it's improving the game state? Is it incentivizing non-abusive, like role abusive gameplay metas, that kind of stuff? So
someone else is asking, and I think this will probably have to be our last question,
okay,
time-wise. So let's say Bill's got Cauterize, Steve's got Cauterize.
Steve always gets Cauterize.
Yep. And they're shooting the same person.
Yes.
What's the interaction there? Anything changed before? It just took the higher value.
Correct.
So how would that work now?
In this scenario, they will stack, right?
Okay.
So you will get the highest benefit of Cauterize, and then the second value will diminish on top of it.
Up to that
for
soft cap.
Ranks, if they're varying
ranks. I don't know why I keep
yeah,
saying soft cap. Hard cap of 95%.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So it sort of does incentivize people then to have multiple of the same thing.
Modularity, variability. You can pick different rank, all sorts of gameplay intricacies that come with it.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's overall a lot better. Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah. All right. Well, we made a deal that if I did the lead in, you would do the lead out.
True.
So you.
I'll take it from here, Matt.
You got it. I believe in you.
Thank you guys for talking with us today. It's always a wonderful time that we can come and discuss with you on a little bit more technical grounds outside of our patch notes, which are filled with a lot of awesome fanfare and personalities. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you all in the realm.
Thanks, guys.